Hey, Hare Krishna, Harbol, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of Detox. First off, I want to open up with a huge thanks to all of you guys for the love and support on the last episode with Mamal Thakur. Your DMs and questions have been pouring in, and I don't know, I'm really grateful for that, and I think it's clear that we're building an honest Sangha right here, and yeah, that's exactly what this project is all about. So last time we dug deep into the need of a spiritual community with authentic behavior or authentic values. And we also talk about how sometimes, especially in spiritual circles, there's this one size fits all approach. And I mean, like how everybody's supposed to fit this predefined mold of what a good devotee is or what a good devotee looks like. But I don't know, like, just let's be real, life is not that simple, right? And neither our spiritual journey. So today I thought of just diving a little bit deeper and talking about something we often overlook, which is the power or the necessity of rejection in our spiritual lives. And yeah, let's get it on. I just already have my notes here just in case I forget anything. But yeah. All right. First things first. Let's get into the meat of the topic. Oh gosh, I shouldn't have said meat. We're vegetarians. Let's get into the most important part of this conversation. So we often talk about how or what to embrace on our spiritual journey, right? Like all of this, accept everything that is favorable and reject everything that is not. But we often don't really talk about the need to reject. We just like categorize everything that isn't spiritual as those things that need to be rejected. But rejection is not just about what we bring into our lives, but also what we actively choose to keep out. I don't know if that makes sense, but in our spiritual text in the Shastra, there's this concept of anukul and pratikul, accepting and rejecting, which is what I said before about basically accepting what's favorable and rejecting what is not. But I think what I wanted to speak about is not just about the part of saying yes to everything that comes in our way, but about discernment, about making choices that align with our spiritual goals. I don't know, for those of you who are in the Telegram reading group, and if you're not, you should totally subscribe. We have been diving into this idea from Follow the Angels, book by Sridhar Maharaj. And a couple of days back, I was reading something about the importance of understanding the mood of the Vaishnava, or basically how a genuine Vaishnava, how a devotee looks like, and knowing how to identify these personalities, and also what our prayer should be or what our mood should be in order for us to meet them. So I think what I wanted to say, but I didn't on the group, and I think I'll bring it up now, is not just about following anyone who looks the part, but also about following those devotees who truly embody the spiritual qualities we aspire for. I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, it's just, I think what I wanted to speak about today is just about how to say no in a way that actually enrich our spiritual life. So yeah, let's talk about some of the issues that we face in regards to this. I think one example that I brought up a couple of days back with someone who DM'd me about a particular problem they were having in their community and about how this person was disappointed after finding something about their leader or whatever. But I think especially when we're new to the spiritual community, we walked into the temple and it's like we've entered this utopia where everything's perfect and where everybody seems to be, I don't know, just like spiritually realized. and you immediately start thinking that you're the only one who's not there yet, whatever that means. I mean, yeah, by association, we as the outsider see that everybody who is sitting around the speaker, or facing the deities, or dancing in kirtan ecstatically, like they like to say, it's automatically a devotee. And I know that by certain definitions, anyone who has uttered the name of the Lord once is to be considered a devotee, etc. But if we get a little deeper, we can see that that is not often the case, and we're all struggling with different things, with different challenges, different anarthas. And I think we need to be aware of that. That yeah, not everybody not everybody within that spiritual circle is on that same level. And sometimes the higher ups can take advantage of that perception, take advantage of our innocence, and yeah, they can make you feel like you got to catch up fast, and they might make you feel bad for not being up to par, and a lot of the things that we discussed in the previous podcast can happen. But within every spiritual community, we've got all kinds of struggles. There's possibly that one guy who's still struggles with pornography, or that brahmachari who's questioning his sexuality, or abusing his ashram mates, or that leader on an ego trip, or that kirtaniya who thinks that he's the next big thing. And there's that. Then there's also that whole us versus them mentality, and I think I brought it up on the previous episode, I can't remember, but it's this concept of, or this vision or idea that if you're not in our sangha, if you're not in our temple, if you're not part of our group, you are basically a karmi, an outsider, you're bad. It's that, you're either a sinner or a saint, and there's never in between. And I think that, again, I can't remember if I brought this up in the previous podcast episode, but this kind of black and white thinking doesn't really leave room for growth, or even, admitting to our shortcomings. So it makes it really difficult for us to just open up, which is the whole point of what we were discussing with Mamu about having these conversations. And then there's also this, we tend to see the two extremes in devotee communities. Like on one hand, you have the fanatics who make you feel like crap for not following every rule. And actually I've been getting DMs on certain cases where leaders are making some of you guys feel bad for not being able to follow Ekadashi, or just not being up to that standard that everybody's supposed or expected to be at a certain time. And yeah, on the other end of the stick, you have the kind of like the new agey sentimental bhakta who just tells you that, hey, it's okay, you don't need to do anything, it's okay if you don't chant your rounds, or do absolutely nothing to change your life, because you don't need to get rid of your anarthas, because you are beautiful the way you are and God loves you that way. That's the other extreme, I would say, of the whole this conversation. But look, just in connection to that, rules and regulations are there for a reason. They are the highest ideal, the standard that we should strive for, I would say. They serve as a guide, and sometimes also as a wake-up call, to know where we are placing our consciousness. But obviously we can't expect everybody to change at the same time. We got to be really honest with ourselves and aware that the journey is individual, with our own particular challenges. But yeah, we also got to be real about where we're at. We're in the point where we're worshiping right now and what we're struggling with, and at the same time be honest with what we can realistically do and what we can realistically take on. So Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that your spiritual journey is individual, is it's yours, and we're all at different stages with our different challenges. And obviously, as we progress in our journey, yeah, we will have different challenges, and also our needs will change. So we will definitely need more personalized guidance. So that's why it's really important to find a spiritual master or a mentor, or yes, somebody that gets you and that can encourage you without, basically without, that can guide you without judgment, which is again something we were speaking last time. And I often hear of stories of devotees who've taken shelter of a particular spiritual master just because of some sentimental reason, like, oh, my Gurudev is good with children, oh, my Gurudev is such a nice singer, and we haven't really connected in that personal level, or we might just take initiation from someone who might force us to renounce a lot of things we're not ready to. And of course, I mean, nobody's ready to renounce anything, but there's gradations of gurus according to all our different needs. I'm not going to get into that, but again, we have to the whole point of this is that you have to be aware, and you have to make an effort to just not accept everything immediately and think that, oh, everybody's a pure devotee, everybody who's dressed the same way and speaks the same way and is, following everything means that person is a self-realized soul, or this person travels to this place and speaks on this topics, that must mean that he's a etc. I think you get the point. But I think on that note, what I'm trying to say is that we have to just be aware and be very mindful of our association and who we are hearing from. Another topic in connection to this whole rejection topic is that running away from discomfort is not the solution. And I know this can open a whole different can of worms, and I guess this also deserves a separate subject, but it just came to my mind because, yeah, I'm speaking about rejecting. Learning to reject what doesn't serve our spiritual journey is a skill, and it's a skill that we really got to learn. We need to sharpen that skill as we move forward. Because, yes, this is the connection before I just lose my thought. If everyone in the community becomes a yes man, or if the community or the leadership manipulates everybody to become a yes man, then we are going to be setting ourselves up for failure. We will progressively be more and more scared of, to have our own opinions, our own criteria. And let's just pause for a second on this idea of running away from discomfort. I mean, nobody wants to not be comfortable. Nobody wants discomfort. Again, nobody wants to give up everything, renounce. But thinking that we deserve to always be joyful and happy in our spiritual journey. And I know that, devotees speak about this, always joyfully perform, every step's a dance and all that. But that doesn't mean that we're not to face challenges. And that means that some will have some crappy days in our attempt to become devotees. In fact, the more sincere we practice all of these on art, this is what I discussed, I think 2 episodes ago. The more we practice, the more these things are going to start coming out, and we got to be prepared. We got to be ready to accept our crap, and that's not really a comfortable position to be in. And that's why sometimes we seek to get attracted or to get attached to the cool things of the spiritual process, just so that we don't have to deal with the crap, just so we don't have to deal with ourselves. But I think that thinking that we deserve to always be happy and never face challenges is a it's also like a form of entitlement. And I just, like I said before, life is not easy, and neither is our spiritual journey. We're trying to change or get rid of layers and layers of nonsense, and we're just so conditioned. So it's not, of course, yeah, it is joyfully performed, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to put on the work. There are very difficult parts of our spiritual journey that require acceptance of our shortcomings, with just like walking with open honesty. So when we are afraid, when we're averse to discomfort, we're setting up ourselves up for failure. Just something a little bit more on that. Why? Because we started to think that we should accept everything. We should accept everybody because everything in the spiritual society is perfect. And we have created this utopia, right? From what I was speaking just earlier on based on our perception of our first, our baby steps into the spiritual community. So because we have this idea that everything has to be perfect, we just avoid confrontation. We avoid making others feel bad. We avoid questioning things. But yeah, I want to make this point very clear. Like, having your own opinions and criteria doesn't mean that we're picking up fights or we just want to be argumentative, or it's part of being authentic. It's part of the spiritual journey. And if we all just, yes Prabhu, yes Mataji, and if we just accept everything without questioning, we're not just doing a disservice to ourselves, but we are doing a disservice to the whole community, because we then create this environment where no one is allowed to question anything, and we need that to grow, to evolve. That's not what the spiritual process is all about. And spirituality is about seeking the truth, even when the truth is not really palatable, when the truth is uncomfortable. That should be our goal, to always meditate on the truth. And just feeling uncomfortable, it's part of the deal. It's part of growth, it's part of authenticity, and it's definitely a part of spiritual or of our spiritual journey, sorry. And I don't know, just about the whole questioning thing. I remember talking to someone a couple of days back about accepting things just blindly because our leaders tell us that it's what's good for us. It's just, look, like our whole spiritual life kicks off with the whole inquiry, right? Remember that verse, that whole Brahma Jigyasa, the whole, now it's time to inquire about the absolute truth. Now it's time to inquire about the absolute reality. The Bhagavatam teaches us to seek the truth. So why is it okay to ask all these questions when you're new, but once you're part of the society, you're not encouraged to ask questions, to question things, to ask your superiors, and sometimes you might even be made, they can make you feel bad for questioning, because that just how it is. It's there, it's written. I feel that what I'm trying to say is that the spiritual leader, in any position he or she occupies within the hierarchy, must be equipped to clear your doubts, whatever they might be. And if he or she can't do that, then the honest thing is to guide you to, or take you to someone else who can answer your spiritual questions. So I'm not trying to speak about just about the philosophy part, but in general, if something feels off, And if we see that our leaders aren't stepping up, I want to say that we should be able to hold them accountable. But just hearing the sound of that, it just sounds like a utopia in itself, right? I don't know. I feel that at some point we should do that, but I don't know. I think the problem lies on the fact that we're also afraid to shake things up because we want to maintain the status quo. Maybe because, I don't know, Lokia Gahenge, what people are going to say about, but that's not where growth happens. And that's why it's important to be aware. Discernment is the key. We got to be selective, even within our own spiritual circles. Again, this whole talk started about accepting and rejecting. But what I'm trying to say is that rejection is not only about the outside world, the non-devotees, but also within our spiritual sanghas. If you find yourself in a toxic environment, in a toxic sangha, I think you should have enough brain matter to know that it's time to take a step back and reassess. So yeah, we talked briefly about problems and just the reality of it all. But I also want to get into the consequences, like what happens if we don't address these things. So first up is the whole emotional toll. Because we were talking about this in the previous episode about this the guilt, the manipulation, the spiritual abuse, all these things start bottling up, and you might feel within you that, oh, there's something off here that feels wrong, but because we're not encouraged to question, because the society or my sangha is set up in a way that if I raise my voice, I might get kicked out. At some point, it's just gonna mess you up emotionally. And yeah, I mean, even especially when you're made feel like you're not enough, you're not up to par, or you're less of a devotee because you're the one who's questioning things, or because you don't fit the particular robotic mold. But that's not okay, dude. And yeah, there's that. Then there's how do you call that? Stagnation. I think that's the right word. Like, if you're not questioning things, what happens is that you are not pushing your boundaries. And when you're doing that, you're not growing. You're stuck. And nobody wants to be stuck, man. Like, especially not on spiritual life, not on the spiritual journey that it's all about growth and a progressive evolution of consciousness. So there's that. And then there's resistance. Like, of course, sometimes our communities might not be open to change, might not be ready to accept these things because everybody's caught up in their own ways and in their own old ways. And I guess that can be also frustrating. But just because the community isn't open to change, that doesn't mean we can't change. Remember what I was saying earlier, that our spiritual journey is unique to like, it's very personal, and so is our relationship with Krishna. So yes, we can choose to follow along with the status quo, but you can also choose not to. And of course, sometimes doing that means that we might face pushback. We will face opposition from those who want to keep things as they are. But I personally think that resistance is not really a bad thing. It's actually a sign that we want to push forward. We want to push for growth, and not just for yourself, but potentially for the whole community. So yeah, I think what I want to say is that don't underestimate the power of individual action. Even if our communities, our sanghas, our little preaching program is not ready, our own journey, our own journey can be a catalyst, and we'll have the power to shape our spiritual life. And maybe we can, after we've done the work with ourselves, we can definitely ignite some growth at large. And that's the whole topic that I've been discussing with some of you guys about this whole inner journey first. Like, we often try to approach spiritual life as the externals, the I need to preach, I need to distribute so many books, I need to convert others, everybody needs to chant Hare Krishna, and we always focus on the growth, the missionary activity. But what about us? I just told someone the other day, like, have you realized anything? Like, have you basically realized the books that you're distributing? So there's something that we just need to think about internally as well, that if we actually shape ourselves, if we battle with our anarthas and not expect the spiritual society or the spiritual leaders to come and fix us, but rather taking ownership for what we do and actually taking a step forward to, I don't know, like, I want to say like spiritual responsibility, I think. So if we're spiritual responsible for our own advancement, if we focus on that, then naturally that will stir our hearts and we will want to give more to others. So yeah, I think I covered, there's a lot of things I want to say, but I don't want to make this too long. But yeah, the power of no. I think that saying no can be a spiritual act, and it's important to set boundaries, and know what serves us, and what doesn't, and at different stages of our spiritual life, right? And it's not about being negative, but it's also about, I guess the word is selective, about choosing what enriches our spiritual life and what doesn't. And also at times that also mean choosing our association wisely on all levels, on equals, with seniors, and etc. You know, sometimes we also have this idea that everybody who's a senior, who's a disciple of so and so, it's a pure devotee or is a very advanced devotee just because they're old, and that's just not the case. So we shouldn't be fooled thinking in that way. So again, you know, we have to try to always move on with that thought of, you know, asking ourselves what fuels our spiritual growth. Why do I need in this stage? And yeah, we got to also watch out for red flags like, I don't know, spiritual blackmailing, emotional abuse, manipulation. You get the idea. These are things that have come from my own experiences and from some of the messages you guys have sent. So again, if you're encountering some of these things, it's time to take a step back. I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to make it long, as I said. It's just some thoughts that I had this morning, and also in connection with some of the conversations that I've been having with you guys. I don't know, I hope this episode resonated with you. We've covered a lot of ground. At the same time, I feel that it was quite superficial in certain aspects, like it's just the surface, and we could go deeper, but I think this is enough for now. Remember, it's all about spiritual authenticity, and that's what we're trying to explore together in this podcast. And I guess if you like what we're putting out there, then I don't know, make sure to follow and send in your questions, comments, feedback, criticism to my Instagram at Jibadoya Journals. I'm gonna put it somewhere here. And yeah, because your input really fuels this community and it keeps this conversation going. So if you're interested in diving deeper, I have a Telegram reading group where we are reading and discussing different the works and words of the acharyas, and we try to really dig also deeper into the nitty-gritty of spiritual life. So really cool stuff happening there, and you could benefit from it, I think. So that's it. Next up, we're gonna dive into the topic of guilt. I think that's another heavy hitter that we all need to unpack together. So I don't think you want to miss that. Hopefully Mamutaka will join us for that one. I still need to ask him. But yeah, anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining episode 10 of Jibadoya Talks. And until next time, I'll see you later.